Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc. My name is Brandon. Today I'm going to give you my predictions for Euro 2024's quarterfinals. So if that sounds interesting, let's hop right into it.
One step beyond.
So the quarterfinals are finally here. We only have 8 teams left in Euro 2024 as we come closer and closer to crowning the kings of Europe, this edition of the European Championship. So I'm going to go through and look at each of these 4 games and give you my prediction for what I think the score is going to be, who I think is going to play well, which team's going to advance, which team's going to go home, and everything in between. So let's start off, without further ado, with the first game that we're going to talk about, and it is Spain versus Germany. What a title matchup we have here. Clash of Titans. In my opinion, this might be a bit of a hot take, and this might be a little bit of disrespectful to say about the other teams, but I think that this is the final before the final. Realistically, whichever team wins here is going to be going through to the semifinals and the final, and then winning the entire tournament, in my opinion. Of course, anything can happen. You never know. We have Germany, the host nation. They started off amazingly in the group stage, smashing teams, doing just enough to defeat Denmark in the round of 16, leading to this point right here. Jamal Musiala is the joint top scorer of the tournament. You also have Fulkrug, who has been amazing off the bench. You also have to look at Ilkay Gundogan, who's been very good in the midfield, and then Toni Kroos as well, who has had a spotless tournament so far. And then even the defenders have shown up as well when needed, and Neuer is back to his old best. On the flip side, though, you have Spain, a team that not many were talking about as tournament favorites going into the Euros. And to be honest, almost every single time that a team ends up winning the Euros, it's the team that people weren't really talking about. You look at Italy last year, obviously Portugal in 2016. Spain could be that team this time around. As I've said before in a few of the videos in the past, they have this style which is very unique, and also what's driving them through each of these victories. It is a very direct, it is very aggressive, and a forward-thinking approach. It is incredibly fast-paced, utilizes wingers a lot, and it really shocks teams. You can obviously just see teams falling apart and Spain running away with games, scoring tons and tons of goals. But you still have that stereotypical Spanish DNA where they're very technical, they like to hold on to the ball, they're very skillful on the ball, things like that. You just have to look at a guy like Pedri, for example. Pedri, Fabian Ruiz, and Rodri as a midfield trio has been unstoppable. But then also on the wings, Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal. And then, of course, you throw in Alvaro Morata in there, who has been a reliable striker, I will have to admit, throughout this tournament. And also, I think he is an underrated striker, or overhated is probably the correct term. And then the defense, I think, was a little shaky at the beginning of the tournament. They have instead gone in the right direction and shored up their defense. So, when you look at these two teams together, these are the absolute 2 best teams of the tournament facing each other here. To some extent, it is a shame that we're seeing this at the quarterfinals, not in the final, or at least the semifinal or something like that. The big question is, how are these two teams going to line up against each other? Are both of these teams going to continue playing the same way they play, which in some ways is similar? Is one team going to blink and try and play a different style? I don't think that's the case. I think both these teams are just going to come completely at each other's throats. They're going to butt heads and try and just outperform the other. Who can score more goals? Who can show up with the more individual brilliance here? And I know that before this tournament, I had Germany as the champions. I know they're the host nation, although historically the host nation hasn't done that well at the previous iterations of the Euros. I am going to say Spain comes out on top of this. Something about the momentum. I think momentum is a huge factor in international tournaments, and we've also seen it in this tournament itself already. But the way that Spain completely blew away Georgia, despite the fact that Georgia showed up and played tough, the fact that Spain is the only team that is perfect throughout the tournament. They've only conceded one goal. They've won every single one of their games. Compare that to Germany, who started off in electric form and then slowed down a little bit, tying Switzerland, and then struggling a little bit against Denmark. It was a good victory still, but they did struggle at times. I think the momentum is going to be on Spain's side. Not to mention, this German defense has been strong. They have been tested at times, but they still are strong. I think that they will be exposed a little bit just by the quickness of Spain's wingers that they have. When all is said and done, I think it's going to be 3-2 in favor of Spain. The next game that we have on that same day is another heavyweight title matchup between France and Portugal. Now, this game, it's funny. It's the complete opposite of the other game. While, yes, these are two matches between title contenders, we have Spain and Germany, the two best teams of the tournament, the teams that are playing almost at 100% capacity, and then you have Portugal and France, who are playing nowhere near where they should be playing. When you look at the players that they have, France has been very disappointing in my opinion, and yes, you can call me a France hater because every time there's an international tournament, I'm always talking about how they're not performing well enough, but this time it's even less so than in previous tournaments. They've only scored 3 goals up until this point. 2 of them are own goals. 1 of them was a penalty. They have yet to score from open play. On the flip side, though, they've only conceded 1 goal, so their defense has been okay, but also at the same time, I don't think their defense has been tested enough. The entire French team kind of just sludges their way through games. They rely on individual brilliance here and there, whether it be that Mbappe cross, which led to the own goal against Austria, or Conte, who is, I'm surprised that he's starting. His performances do merit his starting spot, but they're just relying on these individual players here and there, say from Mike Mignon or something like that. That being said, Portugal hasn't been perfect either. Portugal, I think, had a great game against Turkey in the group stage, but then other than that, they haven't had any other good performances. They got really lucky against Czechia, in my opinion, and then they lost to Georgia. They got completely outplayed by Georgia. It's a very disappointing performance. The game against Slovenia, they started off great, but then after they didn't score in those opening proceedings, they got so nervous, so anxious, they started playing scared, which let Slovenia into the match. Now, luckily, Diogo Costa was able to bail them out in the knockout round there, in the penalty shootout there. But I think when you look at this Portuguese team, the biggest flaw, and I've said this so many times before, is Roberto Martinez. The manager, he just does not have the tactical skills to adapt to the game. Portugal can only play one way when they go up against a team that either is more talented than them or is just more tactically, has a better tactical mindset. They kind of just collapse. That being said, this matchup here, I think, is going to be a game that's going to be a deadlock. I think that Portugal's defense has been strong enough, and then especially when you compare the fact that France's offense has been so weak, I don't think we're going to see a lot of goals in that department. But on the flip side, France's defense has also been pretty strong, and Portugal, in most these games, these tournaments, has been firing blanks. So I think it's going to be pretty tight. I think we're going to see a match that goes to penalties again. I think it's going to be 1-1 after extra time, and it's going to be 2 kind of, scrappy goals. And then, this might be a hot take, but I think that Diogo Costa has been playing so well this tournament. His form is going to continue. He's going to save Portugal in the penalty shootout yet again, and France is going to get eliminated by Portugal. Portugal marches on to the semifinals. The next game we have up is England versus Switzerland, and this is a game that in some ways could be really interesting. It could also be pretty boring. I think that both of these teams have had very different paths up until this point. England, one of the tournament favorites, has been one of the most, if not the most boring team to watch this tournament. They are so lethargic, so dull. the style that Gareth Southgate has put onto this team does not match well with the players. He wants them to play a very defensive, pragmatic, safe style. But you look at this team, all their most talented players are all attackers. They're all wingers, strikers, attacking midfielders, things like that. And as a result, it has been a very lopsided or just, conjointed performance from this English team, where they do just enough to get through in each of their matches. Case in point against Slovakia, where if it wasn't for two very late goals from Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane, Slovakia would have defeated England there. Switzerland, on the other hand, is a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. I think they are a very talented team. It's not so much about the individuals, it's more so about this very strong team collective that they have, which is pushing them through each of these games with some very good results. I think they are a very concise team, a very well-constructed team, very hard to break down. And the way that they played against Italy was one of the best performances we've seen this tournament. They completely outplayed Italy. Granted, the Italians did not show up in that match, but still a lot of credit has to be given to the Swiss. I think that this is going to be England's toughest test up into this part, and I have to admit, I'm going to side with Switzerland here. England has simply been very bad this tournament. It's nothing like we've seen where they were good, maybe not as good as they can be, but still good at World Cup 2022. They obviously got all the way to the final in Euro 2020. This time, I think Southgate's style has really gone stale. It is not working. Like I said, if it wasn't for 2 moments of individual brilliance against Slovakia, they would not be here up until this point of the tournament. Lightning is not going to strike twice. I think Switzerland is going to get the better of England. It's going to be 2-1. It's still going to be a close game, but I think Switzerland are just in much better form. They have the momentum on their side, and that's going to be it at the end of the day, in my opinion, at least. Now, the last match we're going to look at is Netherlands versus Turkey. And these are two teams that have been very hit or miss at this tournament. Netherlands was disappointing overall, all things considered, in the group stage. They were in a tough group. Ended up finishing third. They got crushed by Austria, in my opinion. But I think they redeemed themselves to a certain extent against Romania. They had a very good performance against Romania, winning 3-0 in the last round. On the other hand, Turkey is a team that I thought they played well against Georgia. They got destroyed by Portugal, but then they rebounded with very good wins, very hard-fought wins against both Czechia and Austria, most admirably so in the last round. I think that this Turkish team is full of very talented individuals, but it's not the most, solid team. They are very volatile. You never know what you're going to expect. The biggest thing going for them is the fans that they have on their side. There's millions upon millions of Turkish fans in Germany, and that has been propelling this team forward. The fan atmosphere is absolutely crazy. But I don't think that'll be enough to overcome the Dutch. I think the Dutch have hit form at the right time. They are growing into this tournament. I do think it's going to be close, but at the end of the day, I think the Dutch defense is really going to show up in this match. They haven't really up until this point. I think they will. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 to the Netherlands there in a very, very close game. So that has been all my predictions for the quarterfinals of Euro 2024. Let me know all your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I am saying that it's going to be Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, and Netherlands going through to the semifinals. Let me know all your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Don't forget to follow the Football Bloc on social media. But anyway, guys, my name is Brandon. This has been a Football Bloc, and I hope you have a nice rest of your night.